You're listening to the Cricket Podcast.
Hello everyone and welcome back to the Cricket Podcast. Just a reminder that you can find us on social media at the Cricket Pod. We're sponsored by Woodstock Cricket, which you can buy your cricket bat and cricket bat equipment from. Ross, how's your season going with the old Woodstock?
Smashing it, mate. Absolutely smashing it. Poor bowlers.
It's been painful for people who want Ross to fail. It's been very good for everyone else. And you can head over to Patreon, and all this stuff's in the show notes, and sign up to be a Patreon. We've moved from 6 to 7. We're creeping towards that 10. Wouldn't it be great if we hit a boundary this week, moved up to 11 for the next show? It's too much to ask, probably, isn't it? But we're starting to feel settled at the crease. This part of the show, thanks to Adarsh, who contacted us on Twitter, he basically asked us to do a combined World 11. We didn't want to do that, so we changed it, and we decided we would do a combined World Test Championship 11. So the way this is going to work, the Cricket Podcast boys, me, Jack, Max, and Ross, are going to operate as a selection panel. We are going to pick one player from each nation in the World Test Championship, and 2 from New Zealand and India to make up an 11. And we've decided that Rashid Khan will be the 12th man. He wasn't eligible for the World Test Championship, but it's a little bit harsh that he wasn't, basically. So he's 12th man. And we're going to see what we come up with. We've not compared notes at all, so this could be the worst cricket team in terms of structure of all time, or it could be pretty good. Boys, do you understand what we're doing here?
I think so. I think there is a bit where I mean, I've only picked 3 players because I thought we done like kind of what we've kind of done it as Jack has got the first one is from Australia, Max has got the second one from Bangladesh.
Yes.
I've got the third one from the thing. So it is a mismatch. We've not seen each other's selection or anything like that. So what I'm looking forward to is what this Frankenstein looks like.
It could bat deep.
It could not bat at all. Are we ready then? So first up, we did this alphabetically, then we forgot Pakistan, so they're not alphabetically in order as well. So starting with Australia, I said I'd kick this off. I'm just going to throw it out there. I've gone with Pat Cummins as my World Test Championship 11 first pick, the man representing Australia through the course of the World Test Championship. He took 70 wickets. That's the most of anyone at an average of 21. He's the top ranked bowler in the world. According to the ICC, he's 5th top ranked bowler ever at the moment or recently. No idea how they worked that out, but that's pretty impressive. I think, Pat Cummins, what's particularly special about him is that he basically dominates from first change. So he's not like James Anderson getting the new ball, bowling, doing the easy bit. He's coming on terrible wickets in Australia, really boring pitches, bowling first change, smacking it in just back of a length. No one really knows how he gets the wicket. Crick Viz said his expected bowling average was like 28. That says more about Crick Viz than Pat Cummins, I think. And I thought I'd get that dig in when I could. But he's been fantastic. I've really enjoyed watching Pat Cummins bowl over the last 2 years. It's been a treat. The interesting thing about this, or one of the interesting things about this, is he's managed to get to 70 wickets by just being immensely consistent, picking up wickets in basically every innings he bowls in. He has only taken 1 fifer throughout the course of the tournament so far, which is pretty astonishing.
He does have a pretty good bowling contingent around him, doesn't he? Who are going to steal the other wickets. It's not like Murali, who's got like Chaminda Vaas, and that's about it.
Well, no, it isn't like the man who took the most wickets of all time. I'll grant you that, but it's not his fault that Hazelwood exists, is it?
I wasn't blaming the other. Yeah.
Well, it sounded like you were.
No, he was explaining the lack of fifers. He was supporting. Pat Cummins.
I see. Okay. I thought you were like, they've been softened up.
You do have to question though. How many of those wickets came pre-sandpaper? That's the.
Well, none of them, because the World Test Championship. Fucking hell. What's going on here?
No, I mean, like you were talking about the his overall performance.
Hey, but Max might be suggesting that just because David Warner, Steve Smith, and Bangkok fan doesn't mean the sandpaper stopped. That's what Max might be suggesting.
I don't know what Max is suggesting. It could, the Australian representative as well, it could have been Marnus Labuschagne. He scored 1,675 runs at an average of 72, which was miles ahead of everyone else. But he's really annoying. And I wish that he had been hogpiled by Andrew Simons. That would have been good. Any questions about Pat Cummins or the decision-making process that I went through to pick up Patty, Postman Pat, the cum dog?
No, the only thing I was uneary about Pat Cummins is how much he looks like Glenn McGrath. Like, I just find it very disconcerting when I look at him. Yeah. But that's it.
Right, Bangladesh, Max.
Yeah, it's pretty tough to pick something out of the team that came very, very bottom in the World Test Championship, but there are a couple of players that are worthy of a mention, and I was leaning towards Mominul Haq because he was the only Bangladeshi player to make 2 centuries in the World Test Championship. He was the first Bangladeshi and I think only to ever make 10 centuries in Test cricket. And since he became captain, he's also it's not affected his batting either. He's looked like a very accomplished player in that role. But he's sort of more of a number 4. And I was thinking, I'm thinking of balance for the side, right? As a selector, I'm trying to second guess what might be coming, and with people like Joe Root, Virat Kohli, Kane Williams, and Marnus Labuschagne around, I don't want to be blocking up a spot.
One of them's already gone
with Mominul Haq, and now you're gone with Pat Cummins. I'm a little worried that maybe I should have done, but I've gone for Tamim Iqbal instead, because the world is a bit light on quality openers at the moment, and he's an assured presence at the top, and he had a pretty good World Test Championship for Bangladesh. He averaged 46. Didn't quite make a century, but never mind. Not many of them did in many of their games. And yeah, he's been quality for Bangladesh for a number of years. He's a class act, and a very steady influence at the top of the order. So with a solid performance in the games that he's played in this sort of what do they call it, this rotation of the World Championship, Tamim Iqbal gets my slot.
That's acceptable. Very, very good selection from you. A good thought process that you went through to pick an opener as well. I've got no questions about that Bangladesh choice. That's who I'd have gone with.
Nicely done, Max. England.
Yes, Ross.
So this was quite challenging because Dom Bess picked up 33 wickets in this period, which is more than Wagner and Yasir Shah. So let's not be too detrimental to old young Dom Bess. He will be back.
Old young Dom Bess, as he's now known.
I was impressed with a number of people, but I thought that Joe Root ultimately stat padded against a worse opposition in the World Test Championship, and I'm going to have to say that
odd.
Yeah, I'm going to have to say that Stuart Broad actually deserves the nod here. The fact that he was kind of left out, the fact that he's recently come out and be like, boss didn't like me, I didn't really like him, and just kind of his all-round demeanour throughout the World Test Championship has proven that Stuart Broad is a box office cricketer. He is very annoying when he does but that's what you get when you take 69 wickets in 17 matches I think he played. So the nod goes to Stuart Broad.
I think that's a good choice, Ross. I just think for last summer's histrionics, when he wasn't picked for the first test, cried on TV, not literally cried, but cried to the man on TV, then got picked for the subsequent 5 tests and absolutely destroyed everyone that came up against him. He deserves to be in just for that. It was it's been a good couple of years for Stuart Broad. I think that's a very good choice. Wasn't he only a wicket behind Pat Cummins as well in the cycle? He gets 69 or something like that.
Yeah, he was. I think what is what's good about Broad is that the fact that he's kind of not reinvented himself as a bowler, but changed his bowling action, changed the way he was approaching cricket, has kind of elongated his career. And actually, at the moment in the county championship, he's bowling some of the best cricket he's played in that. So looking forward to this summer and seeing how he comes across and takes loads more wickets against India.
Well, yeah, it'd be good for the series, I think, if you did. I have India as the fourth team on the alphabetical list of World Test Championship teams. Their first pick, because they get two as finalists for this this tournament, is Ravi Ashwin. I don't think you can really look past him as India's best player in the last couple of years, and obviously the recent memory of his bowling versus England is seared into our minds. He was fantastic. Over the cycle, he took 67 wickets in 13 matches, which is pretty good going at a bowling average of 20.8, which is good, I would say. If I was a test cricketer and I was a bowler, that's something like what I would aim for, I reckon. I think the best case you can make for him, though, just to compare him to sort of, or just to sort of, put into perspective how good he was, is that on the list of most wickets in the World Test Championship, he sits third. A place below him is Nathan Lyon in fourth, and I think you'd probably say at the moment they're the two top off spinners in world cricket. And I think when we look back on this era of cricket, Ashwin, he'll be the king. But people will, have a nod to Nathan Lyon. They'll say he was good. There's a massive gulf in terms of the performance between the two, though, despite the fact they sit next to each other on the wickets list. Ashwin took 67 wickets, Lyon 56. Ashwin's bowling average, as I said, was 20.8. Lyon's 31.3. And in Ashwin's strike rate is more than 20 points better than Lyon's as well. So, if you're going to compare apples with apples, Ashwin is a pretty fine apple. Is what I'd say about that. So Ravi Ashwin, I don't think there's much debate that he's been India's top guy for this World Test Championship cycle.
The numbers speak for themselves, don't they? And I think we just love watching him play, right? There is the bit when we were playing against England. Yes, some of the England fans might turn around and be like, the pitches were a disgrace. But there's also a bit where the guy has the ball on a string and just kind of can do whatever he likes with it. And it's just an absolute pleasure to watch.
Maxie, New Zealand.
Yeah, so it would be quite easy, and maybe you would say also quite correct to just say Kane Williamson and then move on. But I think that would be a little unfair to Kyle Jamieson, who, although perhaps a home turf bully, he took 36 wickets, an average of 13.27 in the World Test Championship, which is obviously quite good. And along with that, he had 4 5-wicket hauls and he only played 6 games. So you can see the impact he's had on those. He's basically just torn people to shreds whenever they've come up against him, and done it very handily. And just to back that up, he's scored some pretty useful lower order runs as well, and managed to end his World Test Championship with an average of over 55, thanks to a couple of not outs. So he's had a bit of a fun time. So it'll be interesting to see if this Kyle Jamieson is equally adept at exploiting the English conditions. But certainly for his performances in New Zealand, I couldn't overlook him. He was imperious at home, and that does leave us with quite a long-looking bowling lineup.
Yeah, I was going to say. So far we've got Tamim Iqbal and 4 bowlers.
Yeah.
So let's see
I mean, to be fair, Cummins, Ashwin, and Jamieson can hold a bat. I mean, they'd be a pretty good 8, 9, 10.
What are you saying about Stuart Broad?
He's a good number 11.
That's good. I mean, it's hard. Kyle Jamieson was really good, wasn't he? I mean, I do think Williamson is better, but I can understand within the remit of the World Test Championship thing that we're talking about. They played a similar number of games, and Jamieson really did tear it up. I'm interested to see what he does when he finally plays away from home. I do think that's always a bit of an advantage if you're a bowler, unless you're a Sri Lankan pace bowler, and then it's hell. Ross, South Africa.
I mean, I'm just staggered that Max has left out a guy who got 3 Test centuries and has averaged 57 with the bat, and he's the captain of World Test Championship finalists.
There's another slot, Ross.
Oh, there is another slot. There is. So who am I doing now? I'm doing
You're-
South Africa.
Africa.
So I was going to add in kind of another bowler here in Nortje, who I think has actually come into Test cricket actually quite well, and actually has impressed since his kind of international debut. Really, I think, especially in the last couple of years. But I love a battling batsman. I love someone who will rather wear the ball kind of on the shoulder and on the chest and just really take hits for the team. And there's no man who personifies that more than Dean Elgar. I'm not sure it's because of his lack of technique or it's just or his eyesight. I'm not actually sure of that one. But the guy is
That's a Surrey legend you're talking about there. Be careful.
But he's a proper like old school kind of opening batsman. He knows how to stick around. He knows the kind of like limits of his game, and then therefore knows the strengths of his game. And having someone like that at the top of the order with Iqbal, I think that's a good opening duo there.
Yeah, he's got the kind of home. You know that episode of The Simpsons where Homer Simpson becomes a boxer, and just
the Rocky style.
Yeah, it keeps getting punched until eventually the other guy's out of gas. That's kind of the approach that Dean Elgar's bringing to opening the batting in international Test cricket, isn't it? It's if I soak this up for long enough, eventually I'll still be there and you'll be tired. So yeah,
it's
I'm
like
happy
the Joe Denley role, except Joe Denley doesn't plan to be there to exploit it.
Yes, no, that's a good point. So that Dean Elgar's a good addition. Sorry, Ross.
Yeah, what I do think is that South Africa have been pretty disappointing in the last couple of years. A lot of their players actually haven't fired or they haven't been available.
Well, I think the fact that you've had to pick Dean Elgar kind of sums that up.
No, and they've got box office players, right? And I think it's testament to Dean Elgar, Max, as you say, sorry, Vane, to be in that position. But they're big name players but because of all the stuff that's going on behind the scenes, it must be really difficult to play for South Africa at the moment. And hopefully we see something resolved there.
Well, you'd imagine so. I mean, it does seem like their squad is better or more competitive than some of the cricket they played. I mean, their tour of Pakistan recently, they just went and rolled over. Basically, it wasn't great to watch as a neutral. Sri Lanka, I've got Sri Lanka. They're a little bit similar to South Africa in that it was pretty easy. So I've gone with Dimuth Karunaratne, their opening batter and captain as well. So now we've got a problem at the top of the order. In the World Test Championship, there were only 2 players in the top 10 run scorers that weren't from the Big Four. Karunaratne was one. For a point, can any of you guess the other?
Barazam?
It was Babrazam, but Karunaratne was a couple of places above him. He scored 999 runs at an average of over 50. Sure, he absolutely did pump his stats against Bangladesh recently, but that's what Bangladesh are for in some respects, isn't it? If you're a Sri Lankan batter, that's Sangakkara made a legend based on pumping his stats against Bangladesh. So he's just doing what great men have done before him. The only other serious contender I thought was Dick Weller, who is their exciting wicketkeeper batter. But
we do need a we do need a wicketkeeper.
I think Karunaratne's recent scores probably tipped him over the edge. So I'm going to stick with that. And the next team is West Indies.
The West
Max.
Indies, yes. The alphabetically out of place West Indies. So for me, I mean, having been through the squad and their performances, there is only one man that you could possibly pick, and that is Jason Holder. He was their 3rd top run scorer, their 3rd top wicket taker. He's one of the world's best Test all-rounders, and he's quite an enjoyable man to watch playing cricket as well. He's a cracking character. He's just makes things a bit more interesting just by being there, and I just can't really say that anyone really challenged his place. I mean, there were a few sort of good individual performances at times from players. I think it was Mayers was one, but he only played that one or 2 games. And I think Josh Silva, he looked quite good in the few games that he played, but again, he didn't play that many. And I think Jason Holder really knits the West Indies side together, so it had to be him from my point of view.
I mean, not that I necessarily disagree with that, but Craig Brathwaite did, step into the captaincy role pretty well. He's not a shout, isn't he?
He only averaged like 30 though. It's not great, is it?
Opening the batting, that's better than some.
It's better than some, but it's not good for the world's best 11, Jack.
Yeah, average like 30, 39.7. But
It's in the 30s. It's good enough.
Get Raheem Gormal in there, mate. That's the thing.
Okay, I'll accept that. I mean, Jason Holder, he is pretty good at cricket, as you say, Max. Ross, you get Pakistan, which is always a treat.
Yeah. Oh, Pakistan is so I love Pakistan. Like there is no team out there who offers so much kind of deviation from the mean. Like there you just have no idea what you're going to get. They are a lottery of a team. And I think that there's a couple of players who people call it, like Shaheen Afridi has been brilliant since coming onto the scene, and his left arm Yorkers are brilliant to watch. Babar Azam has hit century after century and is probably better than Virat Kohli right now. And I think there's a player for me that really encapsulates why I like cricket, and is encapsulated when we are watching it. There is always a moment of enjoyability out of it, and that is Mohammed Rizwan, who is behind the stumps.
We have a wicketkeeper. Well done, Ross.
It's coming together.
I just think from watching him against England, and there's just something about him. There is a bit where he clearly enjoys what he's doing, but then again, also a proper fighter, and also is a great hitter of the cricket ball. So I think he's got a deserved place in there. But
absolutely, I think that's a really good shout. And like you're saying, maybe not the first person you'd think of when you think Pakistan cricket right now, but the way he stood in as captain in New Zealand. I know they lost the series and then nearly fired the coach and did the whole Pakistan thing, but he stood out above pretty much everyone there, with maybe the exception of Fawad Alam, who literally stood out. But no, he led the team really well. He made sure they battled, and there were a couple of times when he nearly salvaged draws that he wasn't able to, but sort of batted all day and that kind of thing to really make New Zealand struggle for the World Test Championship points that finally got them to the final.
Yeah, I think there is an important element of cricket when you need, and sport in general, that you need to be able to at least see not yourself, but actually the level of cricket you play at in some of these players, and that level of enjoyment, all that kind of stuff. There's no way, Max, you're even remotely as close to Mohammed Rizwan, but when you play, you remind me of him. So that's maybe why I like him so much.
Thanks, Ross.
Interesting and weird.
Yeah. Right. So that's 2 spots, isn't it? 2 spots left.
That's 2 spots.
At this juncture, we're close to an actual coherent team.
We are quite close. So we've got.
What have we got?
So we've got Tamim Iqbal, and this is in order of how I would play them, not into order of when we pick them. Tamim Iqbal, Dean Elgar, Dimuth Karunaratne, Jason Holder, Mohammed Rizwan, Patty Cummins, Ashwin, Kyle Jamieson, Stuart Broad. That's balance. We've got an all-rounder. We've got 4 bowlers, wicket-keeper, 2 openers. One of them can bat number 3. New Zealand and India, they get an extra pick each because they're the big boys.
BCCI wrote to us and said they needed to have another player.
They wanted both extra picks. We had to negotiate and say, well, you haven't actually won the final yet, so we're going to put a Kiwi in. This is a really boring choice. I've got the New Zealand one, and Ross is going to finish us off with India. This is a really boring choice. I've gone with Kane Williamson. Ross, as you sort of pointed out, it is quite hard to argue with someone who scored 800 runs at an average of 58. If you basically think about it like this, if he had played as many games as Joe Root, he'd have scored 2,000 runs in this World Test Championship cycle. He'd have scored 420 more runs than Joe Root. And Joe Root is second on the list. Had a pretty good cycle. If you would particularly run really at the end, but he's not going to turn down 1,600 runs. That's how good Kane Williamson was, though. He would have scored 400 more than Root if it had been equal. Basically, we need a bit more cricket for New Zealand, I think, to see some more of Williamson. It's a shame that we don't. But I am glad that we get 2 tests in England coming up. And I am glad that they're in the World Test Championship final, because I think it'd be really interesting watching him play against the Indian bowlers at Southampton in about 4 weeks' time now, isn't it? 5 weeks' time. So he's in, and that bolsters the batting, and it leaves our final selection, Ross, down to you.
It's all on you, Ross.
The second Indian.
Yep. So there's obviously some big names here, and we've got quite quite a big Indian contingent, and I can't win in this situation. You already picked Ravi Ashwin. You did well to put the pressure on me at the end. I think it was respectable, commendable for the podcast. In fact, should it be Rohit Sharma? Should it be Virat Kohli? Does Rahane have a shout? Does Pujara have a shout? All of these great players, but Virat Kohli has not hit a century I've hit a century more recently than Virat Kohli has, which says all you need to know. And I think actually over the course of the World Test Championship, it is their bowling lineup that has got them to the World Test Championship final. And there's been no one. They've obviously hunted in packs, which I think is great, and you've had great performances from Shami, great performances from Bumrah, and even Siraj and Thakur, who stepped in. But Ishant Sharma, I can't get away from him. He seems like he's been around forever. Every single time I think of him, I think of the long flowing hair and him getting Alistair Cook out. But he took 36 wickets at an average of 17. And that is pretty good going for that. And he's done it around the world. So I think he's Ishant Sharma for me.
That's a bold choice, and it does sort of somewhat unbalance the side, to be honest, Ross. But I can see the logic behind it. The only thing I would have said is, I don't know if it would have been a wild card, but Rahane's World Test Championship is better than some people give him credit for, I think. 1,000 runs at an average of 43. And obviously that series away in Australia people will remember him as a legend forever because of the way he led India in those final 3 matches, including that century that started the turnaround. What was that, at the MCG?
So we're thinking about the balance of the side, and we've got to put this to the masses. Is there a bit where Rahane needs? Have we got too many bowlers? Is that what we've ended up with?
We probably do, but you've said Ishant Sharma now, and we have to live with that. This is how Ed Smith would select his team. This is how we have to select this team. So I'm just saying that Rahane, he gets an honourable mention. As we said, our 12th man is Rashid Khan, who can't make it. But that leaves us with a team roughly in order of how I think they would play. Tamim Iqbal, Dean Elgar, Karuna Ratner, Kane Williamson, Jason Holder, Mohammad Rizwan, Pat Cummins, Ravi Ashwin, Kyle Jamieson, Stuart Broad, and Ishant Sharma. It's not too bad. It's a bowler too heavy. Jason Holder's got about 5, or Rizwan's got about 5. But I reckon you could, take Kyle Jamieson or Cummins to the nets with the bat, get them averaging 30, sacrifice a bit with the ball, and you'd have a pretty serviceable 11 there. So well done, boys. Shall we remind everyone where to find us quickly before we wrap up the show, Ross?
Yes, you should find us at the Cricket Pod on Twitter and Instagram. If you've watched this video, you should like it and leave some comments. So because we're not doing this live, we can't see your questions, and no doubt I will get pelters for saying that Babar Azam is better than Kohli, and Kohli hasn't even got a look into this team, and wouldn't have done. He was maybe 4th choice on my list. So
and that's exactly why you said it. So
great.
Don't fall for his tricks.
At the Cricket Pod, at the Cricket Pod, at the Cricket Pod. And in the show notes, Patreon and our sponsor, Woodstock. We'll be back later.